All right. We're back after the first week of NFL action. Last night was Monday Night Football. And we're back here on the Sort of Sorts podcast to pretty much recap everything that happened in the last week. So let's start off with, we'll do a segment I love to do after week one. Week one is always so interesting to me. I thought we had a really strong week one this year. I feel like it was a little less weird than usual. I feel like there's usually a little more weird results, more, how did that happen? Than this year. This year it seemed a lot more chalk, a lot less surprising. I don't think there were too many games where you were like, wow, I can't believe that happened. There were some performances that I think were better than expected, but they were still about, we expected these guys to be good. Like I'm saying, like Anthony Richardson, for example, like he had that crazy 60-yard throw. And it's like, yeah, that would have been crazy, except we were all kind of high on Anthony Richardson going into this year, so that was more like a validation. Still a crazy play, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying it was not the most surprising week one, but I think a very strong one. I really liked the games the NFL scheduled, thought they had really good primetime games. Game of the week, that 4 o'clock Browns-Cowboys game was not a good game, but we'll talk about that more in a bit. But overall, really fun week one. I think it's going to be a great season. It is a real shame about Jordan Love getting hurt in that Brazil game. You could just tell that field was terrible, and his injury is not a result of that field. It was a result of a hit, but I'm just glad nobody got seriously injured by that field. So, and as Bill Simmons said on his podcast, the NFL does not really care. They if you ask them about it, they'd be like, "Well, both teams played in the same field." So I don't really think that's the way you should look at it, but I'm willing to bet that's Bill Simmons has got an inside track, and if he's saying that, so, I wasn't thoroughly impressed with that. But let's talk about everything. We're gonna do a segment, overreactions or reality. We did this last year, and I think it's fun to mention. Let me go back to last year real quick, just to point out some of the things we did on this segment. So. Here we go. For last year when we did overreaction or reality, I said the Lions look as promised by me. That was true. Pickett is not that guy. That was true. The Bengals aren't the same. I would say that's an overreaction just because last year they didn't make playoffs. Yes, they weren't the best, but that was part of that. It's a Burrow injury. They were cooking in the middle of the season. Chiefs won't be winning the Super Bowl. That was an overreaction. Purdy is an MVP candidate. Probably an overreaction. Giants are awful. That was true. Might be the Dolphins' year. Obviously an overreaction. I said Anthony Richardson's better than Bryce Young. That's probably true. Bills are not the same. 100% overreaction. Browns are contenders. It's probably relatively realistic. And then Cowboys-Niners is the NFC Championship. Not a terrible take. Not the worst take. Probably not the best take. But also not the worst. Obviously, it was not the NFC Championship, but they both did make the playoffs. So, then there's that. All right. I was just saying, in the past, some of our overreactions have been relatively realistic, and other of them have been way off. Here we go for overreactions or reality. I don't know as many as I did last year, because like I said, it was a little less surprising of a week one. First one, Sam Darnold is fixed and good. Sam Darnold played excellently for the Minnesota Vikings in their win over the Giants this past Sunday. Is he fixed and good? He didn't throw any interceptions. He looked like he was cooking. What's up with that? I'm going to say no. I don't know if you guys remember this because who would randomly watch the Panthers in 2021? I didn't either. This was back in the days before I had Sunday Ticket. So I would just follow the Panthers games on my phone as I watched, the local games for me, the Browns, the Bengals, the Steelers, and then whatever was the game of the week and the nationally televised games. But Sam Darnold had a period for the Panthers. He was cooking. Like we started off like 4-0. Everybody was like, wow, he's fixed. He was leading the league in rushing touchdowns. Panthers Twitter was calling him Cam Darnold. Like it was a whole thing. So I would say no. We've seen him come out to hot starts. I don't think he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. But he's also not good. So he's not fixed and good. He also has the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, Justin Jefferson. He's not fixed. So that's an overreaction. The Chiefs are better than ever. I feel like when we watched the Chiefs Thursday night, it was kind of like a in my opinion, because I was like, they might be better than they were last year, and last year they won the Super Bowl. Seemed like Xavier Worthy is going to click into that system. It looked like, for some reason, Rashee Rice is now like running Tyreek Hill routes and killing it. Like, he looked so fast out there. And I was like, whoa, guess I shouldn't have passed on him in all my fantasy drafts. Wow, he looks insane. Kelsey was barely involved and it didn't matter. And Pacheco obviously works well in that system. So the Chiefs' offense looked better than last year. And they don't even have Hollywood Brown in there yet. So I feel like the Chiefs are better than ever. And a part of me is like, whoa. Like, I think it's going to be a fun season. I think when it comes Super Bowl time, I'll probably pick the Texans, or maybe I'll get excited if the Bills are doing well, then pick the Bills. But realistically, the Chiefs might just win it again. I mean, they look better. I mean, the thing that's fun about the NFL is it's not like the NBA, where in the NBA, you pretty much got to have a top 5 player to win the finals, and you also have to, actually it's more like top 3, like a top 3 player to win the finals. The only teams really exceptions like the Celtics, but they had like 2 guys that are top 15, so it kind of made a ton of depth. So that's how they were able to do it. But you could have like a top 3 player, and usually we've got an idea of like it's like usually like one of like 4 teams. If you like really came down to it, like one of these 4 teams win the finals, you'd be right. Whereas in the NFL, it's the any given Sunday mentality. Like, because the playoffs are one game, and because the NFL gap between the worst team and the best team is really not that wide, in my opinion, I feel like it's a lot more unpredictable, and that's fun, and I enjoy that. Like, I think the Chiefs last year did have some nice breakage. Like, things kind of went their way in that playoffs. Some things just kind of fell their way, whereas like I would say, I'm trying to think of an example. It's like the opposite, but I'm saying I'm going to use this one as an example. Super Bowl 55 was Buccaneers Chiefs. You go back, you can rewatch every game the Bucs played in that NFC playoffs. I don't know if the Bucs were really the best team in the NFC that year, but it also just kind of, things went their way. It kind of clicked at the right time, and they went on to the Super Bowl, and they locked in because Brady wanted that 7th ring, and they won. So that's kind of what's fun about football, is like, if this was the NBA and the Chiefs were like the Lakers, and the Lakers came out week 1 looking like this, we'd all be like, wow, it's a wrap. They're going to make the finals, and they probably would. Whereas the NFL, the Chiefs could be clearly the best team, but that doesn't really guarantee they're in the Super Bowl. Does that make sense? I just think in football, it's like usually like one of like the top 8 teams. There's just a lot more margin for other teams to be in. I think that's interesting. Like the year the Bengals made the Super Bowl, I think the Chiefs were probably better than them. But the Bengals were the ones that Bengals ended up beating them. They went for that touchdown before halftime instead of taking the field goal, and that ended up costing the Chiefs. There's just a lot more little things that add up. Less margin for error, I think, is just the way it is. One more thing, quick thing about Super Bowl 55. I think it's going to be so interesting in like 10 years. Because let's say Mahomes has 7 Super Bowls, right? And he's done what no one else has ever done in three-peated. There's going to be a real argument he's the GOAT, right? But Brady is always going to have the fact he beat him. And that's crazy to me. Like, every pro sport wishes they had that GOAT versus GOAT game. Like, NBA fans wish we got the Kobe versus MJ finals, or the LeBron versus Kobe finals. Something to that effect. No, I mean, obviously a LeBron versus MJ finals would be awesome, but that wouldn't make sense time-wise. I was trying to be semi-realistic. Like, it was such a big deal when Shohei Ohtani was pitching to Mike Trout in the World Baseball Classic, for good reason. Like, that's the moments you want. Because professional sports aren't like boxing, where, they have the big 3, MLB, NFL, NBA. They have teams, so it's not like you can just take the top 2 guys and be like, okay, you can on Christmas Day. You can make Christmas Day Curry versus LeBron, but, you just got to hope that Cavs-Warriors is the finals, which it was for 4 years, and that's what the NBA was wanting, but it's not always that way, right? As fun as it would be to get a Jokic Embiid finals, Embiid's going to have to win more than one playoff series to do that. So that's kind of the problem there. So I do think it'll just be interesting because Brady's always going to have the fact that they faced off. Like, let's say Mahomes gets 7. It's like, yeah, they got 7, but guess what? One of Brady's 7 is over Mahomes. And that, like, doesn't matter if his O-line was bad. Doesn't matter. Like, that will always be a talking point. I just think it's so interesting. It's kind of like the ultimate middle finger from Brady. He's always going to have that to hold over Mahomes. There's no going back on that unless Brady suits up and goes out and makes the Super Bowl and Mahomes beats, and then it's tied 1-1. Which I think is very unlikely. So, I just think it's interesting, and I think Mahomes might go down as like the most talented to ever do it. Or I'm saying this right now, and he's only in like his 6th season, but I mean it. I mean, he's just the stuff he does out there is incredible. But Brady, won at the right times, and that's why he got 7 championships. So. It'll just be interesting. It'll be a very interesting conversation when both careers are over. I think one of them is going to go over, but you never know if Brady's going to pop back out. But anyways, the Chiefs are better than ever. I do not think that's an overreaction. I think that's reality. I legitimately think this might be the best offense Mahomes has had since the Tyreek Hill days, which is crazy to me because that's maybe it's better. There's actually more depth at receiver, I think, so. Because back then, like, it was Tyreek Hill was the one. It was Sammy Watkins, wide receiver 2 on the 2019 Chiefs. And then Damian Williams, I remember, was the back. I guess we're going to look. Because to me, let me look at this. 2019 Chiefs, here we go. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, and then Byron Pringle. Oh, yeah, Byron Pringle. Yeah, let's look at the 2020 Chiefs. Let's see what that team looks like. That's Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Byron Pringle, Travis Kelce. Yeah. I honestly think there's an argument this is the best offense he's had. And the defense is better than it was then, too. So this just flat out might be the best team he's ever worked with, which is crazy. All right. So that is not an overreaction. That is reality. Next one. Saquon is the best running back in the NFL. He scored 3 touchdowns in his opening game for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was pretty crazy. It was like, whoa, Penn State Saquon back. Here's my argument. I do think this is one where it's a little early to tell, but I think it's because this one could be reality. It could be an overreaction. I believe it's an overreaction. I think a lot of that was that field was a bad situation. Handing it off made sense, and Saquon stepped up. And on top of that, I don't think the Packers had game planned for Saquon to be that good. I think a lot of teams right now are looking, if they're playing the Eagles this year, they're starting to look into that film, starting to figure out Saquon, try to figure out how to slow him down. Saquon is probably a top 5 back. I don't know if he's definitively number 1. So that's what I would say there. I would say that's an overreaction. We'd have to see more. Anthony Richardson is as promised. It felt like everybody was high on Anthony Richardson. I was starting to get a little concerned. He was going as like the 5th or 6th quarterback in fantasy drafts. It was, people were treating him like he was already a sure thing. I was getting very concerned by this. Maybe we're overhyping it. Are we sure we should be doing this? And it looks like he's completely as promised. So, props to him. I mean, yes, he lost. I think he had an interception too. But he is, I do think by the end of the year we might be talking about him as top 10. Now, here's what's going to be interesting is you watch this because a lot of people, I don't think, watch some of these games and they base their takes off fantasy football. So when people start saying he's like a top 5 quarterback, man, I don't know. I think Anthony Richardson might be a top 5 QBs around that range. That's because in fantasy, he's going to be nuts because he runs the football. If you watch the games, he's not a top 5 back. He's not a top 5 quarterback. He's just not. So keep that in mind. I'm warning you, these takes will be coming if he continues to perform well in fantasy. It's the same thing that goes on with Jaden Daniels, where Jaden Daniels is probably going to be a really good fantasy quarterback. I don't think he's going to be the best rookie quarterback out of these guys. I'm assuming Caleb Williams will be better. I guess maybe Jaden will be better, but I'm assuming it'll be Caleb Williams. But if Jaden puts up better fantasy numbers, there are people saying he's the best just because of fantasy instead of how he actually performs in a game. So just keep this in mind. Because I don't think fantasy points is a direct reflection of your production on the field. Now, granted, if you have an insane week in fantasy, you put up 30 points, then yes, you obviously are very good. Especially if you're like a receiver or a running back. But, Matthew Stafford this week. Let me just pull up. I'll go to my fantasy. Matthew Stafford this week was the 13th best quarterback in the NFL. That ranks him behind Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, Anthony Richardson, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Geno, CJ, Tua, Jalen, Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes. I feel like Matthew Stafford played better than Anthony Richardson. Yes, he had the pick, but I thought Stafford was doing really good. I was really impressed with Stafford. Anthony Richardson was 4th. Jaden Daniels was 3rd. So just keep that in mind. Baker Mayfield being number 2, though, I'm fine with that. Oh, my. All right. Okay. So I believe Anthony Richardson is, as promised, is a reality. He is very good. I just say don't get too high, guys. Not yet. Next one, Deshaun Watson needs to be benched. I've been praying on this man's downfall for a long time. Was not high on the Browns, basically just because of him. I think 10-7 might have been generous by me because I believed in that defense. And wow, he played so awful. I genuinely believe they should be starting Jameis Winston. This is not an overreaction. This is reality. I knew. We all know how I feel about it, about how they thought they should have kept Baker, how they shouldn't have gotten rid of him. I didn't like getting Deshaun. I didn't like any of this. And a lot of my buddies are Browns fans, and to me, you're delusional if you believe that Deshaun should still be the starter. He clearly is bad. He's also a bad person, and so I would like for him to quickly be replaced. And you're always going to have, though, well, look at what Baker's doing. I know people get mad about that. They're like, well, he's not coming back. Yeah, you're the ones who traded him, though, so they're always going to be linked. It's always going to be linked that, Baker and Deshaun. It's always going to be linked because you could have had Baker. It's always going to be linked. So I don't think that's no reaction. I think that's reality. Deshaun's terrible, and this Browns team, I think on paper, could be a Super Bowl team with the correct quarterback. He isn't the correct quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not good. He's just not as good as we thought. I believe that's an overreaction. I think the Cardinals need to get him more involved on offense. I believe there's going to be a real effort to do it this week against the Rams. So we got to wait and see. I do think maybe we overreacted, though, by taking him like he was a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy, because I do know a lot of people did that. That might have been overreaction, but as far as him being a bust, hell no. He's going to be fine. Overreaction on that. Kirk Cousins' signing was awful. I also think this is an overreaction. We need to see more, but if by week 8 Kirk is still doing bad, I honestly think they might think about Penix, which is crazy, but they might. Are the Jets bad? They lost Monday Night Football 32-19. It was a scoregami, so that was big. But they didn't really look the best, and the Niners completely controlled that game. I honestly thought the Niners were going to lose. I was like, this smells bad for the Niners. I don't like the vibe around this team. McCaffrey got hurt. They had all those issues this summer with the signings. Ricky Pearsall got shot. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on in San Francisco. And then they won 32-19 and, completely controlled the clock. They were just draining the clock, handing it off to Jordan Mason. He played well. Now they got all this drama because he figured out was starting Friday and they didn't announce that McCaffrey was out. Whatever. I'm sure they'll take care of that. But classic Shanahan. McCaffrey goes out. Doesn't matter. My system's the system. It'll work. And, yeah. So I think the Jets, are the Jets bad? I think it's an overreaction. I do think they obviously have elite talent in Garrett Wilson. Rodgers loves Allen Lazard. I think Breece Hall's really good. Maybe this was just a week 1 loss, and they'll be able to fix it. I mean, you guys remember a couple years back when Aaron Rodgers and the Packers got smacked by the Saints? Then obviously, I think Rodgers went on to win MVP that year. It was 2021 when that happened. So, and there's that. Keep that in mind. All right, let's talk about what this episode's named after, everything, what everybody's been waiting to talk to me. Everybody's been waiting to hear. My Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are cooked. Is that an overreaction or reality? I think that's a reality. I've probably spent the better part, actually, no, it was more like the worst part of my day yesterday and Sunday discussing my Carolina Panthers of people. There was actually a point on the phone the other day in which Genevieve told me, are you sure you can't just pick a new favorite team? And I know she was kidding. I hope she was kidding. No, she was kidding. But she does have a point. It's rough. So for those of you that didn't watch, I don't know why you would watch in the first place. We got cooked by Derek Carr. Made him look like Peyton Manning out there. 47-10 was the final. First play of the game for the Carolina Panthers 2024 campaign was Bryce Young throwing an interception. An interception that was completely on him. He wasn't hit. Well, he threw it. There was barely any pressure. He just threw it to the other team at a bad ball. I really want Bryce Young to be the franchise quarterback, to be as good as he was in college, to be this guy for the Panthers. But I don't see it. Everybody's been telling me, well, that team's not very good. Look at that roster. It's not good. I was like, okay, well, first of all, did you watch us at all? I don't know why you would. And somebody said to me, this was funny. Somebody goes, well, I had red zone on. I said, we weren't ever in the red zone. We were in the red zone once. At least offensively. And the defense, you probably saw us all the time on red zone getting cooked by the Saints. Taysom Hill scored on us. So Foster Moreau, jumped up in the air and caught it. It was crazy. So, yeah. Basically, in fantasy, whatever defense is playing the Panthers, start them. Because here's the other thing. I'm not big on PFF grades, and I think a decent amount of people cherry pick them to kind of build their argument however way they can. But according to PFF grades, our O-line wasn't bad at all. They were actually pretty solid Sunday. So it's not that for Bryce. And to me, my argument is when Joe Burrow was a rookie for the Bengals, that team was not good. The year before they won one game, maybe 2 games. They were bad. And it was before T. Higgins broke out. It was before they had Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd was there and was fine. The O-line was awful, completely awful. That's why some people wanted them to draft Penei Sewell instead of Jamar. I stand by. They made the right move. Even though, obviously, the stuff with Jamar, but they don't make the Super Bowl that year with Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell's elite, one of the best O-linemen in the league, but, they needed Jamar more than they needed Sewell. Just would make more sense for them. Anyways, there were still flashes, though. So that year, Joe Burrow was starting quarterback, and then he got hurt a couple weeks into the season. Came back the next year. They got Jamar Chase. They started off whatever, and then they ended up going to the Super Bowl, right? The thing is, there were still flashes of brilliance in Joe Burrow. There was this team's bad. Herbert might be better, but there's still something here with Burrow. That next year he came back and proved it. I don't see a lot of flashes from Bryce Young. And this is year 2. He saw 17 games last year. This is year 2. So I should be seeing more flashes. And to me, he was still throwing picks to people. I don't know what he was looking at. He ran into an O-line and fell over. He's doing I'm going to scramble around for 10 seconds and then throw it over to the sidelines. And to me, that's the worst thing. There's nothing more heartbreaking than watching that. especially when I flip over and watch the Texans-Colts game, and I'm watching C.J. Stroud run to the sideline, get hit while he's going out of bounds, and throw a pass into the middle of the field while he was on the right side of the field going out of bounds. That's good for a first down. Like, I'm watching him just do crazy stuff out there. And I know there's always going to be they passed on Stroud and Richard. Yeah, I realize this. I do. But I also think neither of them would be as good with this Panthers team, because I think last year we were very bad. And this team is nowhere near as good as the Texans, and they have D'Amico. So I'm actually fine with the way things worked out, because I'm glad CJ's doing well there. I think CJ's gonna potentially be the Mahomes rival, which would be cool. I'm fine with the way everything's worked out. I mean, would it be awesome for my team to have CJ Stroud? Of course it would have. But I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, what if that would have happened? Because it's not gonna happen. I guess my thing is, I know we're only 1 week in, but I can pretty much wholeheartedly tell you, I don't think Bryce Young is going to be the guy I had hope he was going to be. I picked us to win the division, and I do not believe that's going to happen at all. I would probably put my money on the Bucs. Again, I think, obviously I can't change my prediction for what it's worth, so I'll just be wrong, which is fine. I'm obviously very disappointed. I also think we have one of the worst owners in the league, so that doesn't help anything. He promised that we wouldn't be in mediocrity when he took over, and the good news is we are definitely not mediocre. We are significantly worse than mediocre. So he's done a great job making sure we were not in mediocrity. That is not a Ryan Klinger original. I saw that in a tweet, so I would quote the guy, but I cannot remember who said it. But if you're the guy who tweeted that, great work. This kind of works out, though, because this year is the most college football I've ever watched, and I'm enjoying it. And the Panthers should draft a new quarterback. Because here's the thing. This is the arguments I've been having. People are like, well, that team's so bad. You could draft this, you could draft that. Some guy was like, you guys should take Travis Hunter, number 1. He's an elite wide receiver. And I was like, look. There is no scenario in which you draft. It doesn't matter how good a wide receiver is. If you can find a franchise quarterback, you're taking it. And he's like, oh, no. And I said, okay, here we go. The 2020 draft, if I'm the Minnesota Vikings, and you say, hey, let's go back in time. Instead of Justin Jefferson, would you prefer Joe Burrow? And he was like, and part of the reason I use that draft is because Justin Jefferson is pretty much, everybody agrees, the best wide receiver in the NFL. And then Burrow is like a top 5 quarterback, but he gets injured. It's not like I said Mahomes. You know what I mean? Because that'd be an obvious answer. So I purposely picked it like this because it at least is a decent point, right? And he was like, oh, well, I'm like, no, they're taking Burrow every time. Because you look at the teams with the best wide receivers, you don't get any, you might go to the playoffs, but you're not winning the Super Bowl with Gardner Minshew under center if you have Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams with them. That's just not how it works. But you can win the Super Bowl with, Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Kadarius Toney if you got Patrick Mahomes. That's the difference. So, is it great to have Tyreek Hill and Mahomes? Yeah, but they won more Super Bowls without Tyreek than they did with him. So what does that tell you? It clearly, it's fun to have a great wide receiver. It is obviously better to have a great wide receiver. But if you can find a quarterback that can elevate wide receivers, then you're better off. And that's what the Bills are doing. And I'm really impressed with what the Bills are doing. I'm really, really high on that team. I messed up my predictions believing they wouldn't win that division. I think Josh Allen could be in for an MVP year. As I said, if he can get this team to the playoffs, he deserves to be MVP. I think this might be that year. We'll talk about them more in a second. Let's finish up me being upset about the Panthers. My thing with the Panthers is this. I don't actually think the team is the worst thing ever on planet Earth. I genuinely believe we're better than the Giants. As far, overall, I agree the defense needs some help. But guys telling me, oh, you should just trade everybody away and be bad. No. That's stupid. It's genuinely stupid. Because that's how you get stuck being bad for years and years and years. Because then you get somebody good, but it doesn't matter because the rest of the team's bad. And that's how you get stuck in a rut. And I don't want to do that. That's dumb. You want to know a team? People are so in love with this Lions team, right? You know, the Lions started being when Dan Campbell took over. He tried winning games. They won two games his first year, and they didn't get the number one pick because they won those games. They could have won 0-17. They did not. They tried to win games. So they won 2 games in 21. Turn around 22, they won 8 games. 23, they won 12 games. Sorry, 11 games. It should have been 12. My bad. Decker reported. But I'm saying that's a perfect example. But people don't think about that. They just go, oh, the Lions were bad for so long. Yeah, they started turning around. They tried winning games instead of being like, oh, we're bad, everything will fall in place. I just don't understand the mentality. People get annoyed at the Steelers because they just, oh, well, they're never going to get a top Here's the thing. If they eventually do hit on pick 25 and get like somebody elite, then it's over because the team's already solid, and then they just add that in. So, to me, that makes way more sense than just praying you're magically going to hit on all your picks and you're going to have this young team. It's stupid. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, yeah. What I'm saying here is a really long-winded way of me saying, if Bryce Young isn't the guy, let's not wait around. Let's not put our hands on our hips and go, oh, no. Let's draft somebody new and let's move on. If by week 5 we're 0-5, well, I guess it'd be week 6. If by week 6 we're 0-5, I genuinely would put in Andy Dalton. Just to see, right, where is Bryce truly that much of a problem? And to me, I'm willing to bet that'll show. It'll show that he's just not good. The team's not, probably a playoff caliber team anyways. But I don't think we're the worst team in the NFL. I think Bryce is just really bad. And I'm sorry to say that I wanted him to be good. I really did. I wanted him to be my franchise guy. You guys know. I mean, what did I title that? Bryce Young saved you from the saddest podcast of my career. Something like that, right? Let me find that. Bryce Young saved you all from the saddest podcast of my career. Maybe I'll title this one, Bryce Young might have given us the saddest podcast in my career. I don't know. I think what I'm going to title this one is something like, what do I even say, with a picture of Bryce Young. Just to, hammer that puppy home. But, yeah, it's disappointing. As far as quarterbacks I'd like for the Panthers, I really like Cam Ward. You guys know I'm high on him. I think Miami will win the ACC. He might get some Heisman hype. Panthers take him. That would be awesome. You guys know I love Shador. I think Shador and Deion don't want to be in Carolina. I think they'll boss that. They'll be like, no. Shador don't want to go there. Poverty ass. Yeah, that's what'll probably happen. I'm being legit. I'm even a fan of those guys. Like they'll. Also, yes, I was not impressed with Shador, tearing down his teammates. I haven't been really impressed with some of the leadership skills he's been showing. And I think it also factors in. But I think Shador and Cam are the 2 quarterbacks I really like in this draft. I'm not huge on Quinn Ewers. I'm not big on Carson Beck. I think Dylan Gabriel might be eligible. I don't want him either. I would like for Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward looked awesome for Miami. Miami low-key has a cheesecake schedule. But, we'll see how they play in the college football playoff in 5 months. But, yeah, I'd like to take Cam Ward for the Panthers. That'd be pretty cool. All right. As far as overreactions, reality, are the Panthers cooked? I think it's reality. There we go. All right, let's talk about some other things. Steelers are the only team in the AFC North that won this week. I thought that was a fun stat. Probably on their way to another winning record, right? We'll see. Baker played well. Was really proud of him. The Rams looked really strong. I don't know if they're going to win 12 games like I thought, but they did look good. I think they might have outplayed the Lions. But in the same sense, I think McVay, people were asking me, they're like, what happened there with the Lions? How did they not smack them? I think McVay was so pissed off from them ending their season last year that he circled this game and was locked in. It was trying to do everything in his power to beat the Lions. And then obviously the Lions won an OT, and it was great. So happy for Jared and the Lions. Tom Brady is a commentator. You could tell he was nervous. You could tell it was rough. It was really not the best work from him. It was pretty robotic delivery. I want Tom Brady to do very well. I think he could be excellent. I think he was just nervous. I really do. So I think you got to give him some time to get used to it. I think he could end up being the best one. For time being, though, it's still Tony. Let's touch college football real quick. I'm not even really going to put this as a segment. This is really quick. Michigan got blasted by Texas. I don't know what they're going to do for the Michigan quarterback situation, but Texas, if Texas wins the SEC this year, there's going to be a lot of SEC people that are really pissy because they're like, that's not a true SEC team. And it's like, yeah, well, you guys let them in. So what do you want me to say here? So just keep an eye on that. Notre Dame paid a MAC school to beat them. I don't know if you guys realize this. They pay these smaller schools to come play them. Notre Dame paid Northern Illinois to come play them, and Northern Illinois obviously beat them, so that was crazy. I wrote down Colorado. I was obviously very disappointed in our play this week. We need to step it up this week against Colorado State, win the rivalry game. Everybody's like, oh, Dylan Raiola cooked you guys. Dylan Raiola played fine. It was the running backs. They were killing us. They ran right down our throat. Dylan Raiola played well, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like Dylan Raiola was out there spinning around in the backfield throwing 40-yard bombs. He was not doing that. I guess props to Matt Rule. I know a lot of Panthers fans are like, oh, I want Matt Rule to fail. Why? He doesn't coach for us anymore. Why do you want him to fail? So props to Matt Rule. He's clearly doing well with Nebraska. It seems like he's got a team that there's a lot of excitement about this year. So I'm good for him. Glad he's doing well back coaching college. All right. Oh, and yeah, like I want to say, Shador shouldn't be putting down his teammates. It's bad leadership. Yeah, you know these things. You know. Okay. Marquee matchups for this week in the NFL. The 1 p.m. slot. There's only one good game, I think. Vikings-Niners is not interesting to me. I think the Niners will show everybody, hey, stop. It's not. Come on. Giants-Commanders is clearly not a marquee matchup. Seahawks-Patriots, clearly not a marquee matchup. Oh, quick thing on the Patriots-Bengals. I didn't even say anything about this because the Bengals always lose week 1. I think they've lost week 1 every year of Burrow's career there. So I think that's just how it goes for the Bengals. I didn't really think anything of it. On top of that, I guarantee there is a show out in Boston right now. Maybe not Boston, but there's a sports show in America right now doing a segment on their morning show, something to the effect of, did Gerard Mayo just prove that Belichick was the problem? It's like insane to me. Oh, goodness. Anyway, Seahawks-Patriots, not a marquee matchup. Saints-Cowboys. The Cowboys, it should take care of them. I don't think that's a marquee. Giants-Commanders, hell no. Chargers-Panthers, hell no. Browns, Jaguars, no. Colts, Packers, if Jordan Love was healthy, yes. But no. Jets, Titans, no. So I've settled on Bucks, Lions, because I'm not going with Raiders, Ravens. I'm not going Raiders, Ravens either. So I've settled on Bucks, Lions. I'm doing 2 4 o'clock games, 1 p.m. game. Just watch Bucks, Lions. Don't watch anything else. That'll be a fun game. Lions should win, but Baker will make some great plays, and you'll watch Mike Evans, who's going to go down as like a top 10 wide receiver of all time. Not an exaggeration. He's like really good. So there you go. But 4 p.m., we do have 2 marquee matchups. First of all, we got Cardinals at Rams. It's Rams at Cardinals. I don't know why I listed it wrong. Rams at Cardinals. That should be great. 2-0-1 teams, but 2 teams I think there's a lot of hype about. Should be very fun offensively. Jared Verse didn't pop up a ton last night, though, for the Sunday night for the Rams. So maybe he shows up more in this week's game, and maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. shows up more in this week's game. And then what I'm sure is going to be America's game of the week at 4:25 is Bengals at Chiefs. I'm assuming this is a Fox game. Are we getting? No, this is a CBS. So it's going to be Romo. But that'll be fun, though, Romo. Bengals, Chiefs. It's going to be tough for the Bengals. They start off 0-2, but I genuinely believe they might. And so I'm taking. I don't usually do picks for marquee matchups, but I do think the Chiefs will win this. But that'll be a fun game. Burrow versus Mahomes, so it'll be great. So, all right, primetime picks. Thursday Night Football. This is a good matchup for Thursday Night Football. They started off well with the first 2 Thursday nights of the year. We got Bills versus Dolphins. I got to go Bills here. I was so impressed with the Bills this last week. To me, it is so clear right now that Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the NFL. In my opinion, it's like Mahomes is in a tier of his own, and I honestly think like Allen is starting to create his own tier, where it's like Mahomes, gap, Allen, gap, Lamar, probably Burrow, Stroud. That would be like my top 5 right there. Honestly, there's going to be a point where Stroud might be 4 at this point. Like Stroud's so impressive. But yeah, as far as Josh Allen, I was just like watching him this last week. It just feels like when he wants to lock in and win the game, he can just do it, and it's so impressive to me. They just felt, they were down. I think it was 17-3 or 17-7. I've been 17-3 to the Cardinals, and they just put up 21 unanswered. And I was just like, yeah, it's Josh Allen and the Bills. Like, he's got it. It's like they went in the locker room. Josh Allen ripped everybody a new one, went back out there, hurdled the dude. They win the game. It was crazy. I was like, I would love to see him win MVP this year. I don't know if I made this joke before. I made it to my friends. I think Josh Allen is the official quarterback of dads. My dad loves Josh Allen. Every dad loves Josh Allen. Wyoming boy, only one D1 offer. He keeps to himself, big smile guy, and he's in Gillette razor ads. To me, that just confirms he's the official quarterback of dads. So that'll be fun to watch Josh Allen cook up on the Dolphins. So that's my pick for primetime picks for Thursday. Sunday Night Football, we got Texans versus Bears. Crazy to me that we're doing Caleb Williams Sunday Night Football games in his second week. And against C.J. Stroud, no less. What? I guess what they're hoping for is if in some possible way the Bears upset the Texans, then they can be like, oh, is Caleb Williams in that? Oh, did he just dethrone C.J.? Texans should beat them by 14. What is the spread? What is the spread for this game? I am so curious. Okay. Texans spread. Let's see. What is it this week? What's the line? That's what I need to know. This is so interesting. Okay, so this is DraftKings. What is the line? Texans by 6.5. Yeah, okay. They should beat them by more than a touchdown. So the line is 6.5. I would 100%. I feel like the Texans might win by 10. I'm being serious. I mean, Roma Dunze got hurt, or Dunze, or however you pronounce it. I think the Bears won, but I don't think they look great. Texans, I feel look really good. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely the Texans. I feel like they'll win by 10, 14. I think it won't be that great of a game. I think it'll start interesting. The announcers will be hyping it up, and then CJ's going to come out there and cook up, and Caleb will have a 3rd and 10 where he throws an incompletion because him and the receiver weren't on the same page. And you see him doing the thing where he's using his hands and talking to him oh, come on, man. And the Texans go out there and make it 14-0. And Caleb and them get a little run before the half, and now it's it ends up by it's 14-3, and the Bears get the ball, they make it 14-10. CJ Stroud and the Texans come out, now it's 21-10. That to me, that's what it, and then it ends 24-13. To me, is just how it'll work. If it actually does go like that, that'd be hilarious. But yeah, Texans over the Bears 100%. Monday Night Football, Eagles versus Falcons. Falcons did not look the best. Steelers kind of took care of them. I'm not the highest on the Eagles. I don't really know if I like any team in that division, but I guess I'll take the Eagles. But if the Falcons beat them, I wouldn't be shocked, even though I don't think the Falcons are elite. Battle of the Birds, the Dirty Birds versus the Birds. I think the Eagles are just the Birds. I know the Falcons are the Dirty Birds. Yeah. I had a cousin once, and he was younger. Well, I still have this cousin. It wasn't like I had him once, but I had a cousin who was younger one time. He said he was like probably 5, 6 years old. He's like, I just like the bird teams. And so whenever we watch NFL, whatever team was a bird, which there are a lot of bird teams. I mean, you got the Cardinals, you got the Falcons, you got the Ravens, you got the Eagles. Is that it? Is that all the bird teams? I think so. Yeah, that's all the bird teams. But, that's 4 teams. Oh, Seahawks. Yeah, Seahawks, 5 teams. So, yeah, there's 5 bird teams. It's a decent amount of the NFL is bird teams. So, a little less than a sixth is a bird team. So, it was funny. I remember that. All right. I think that's it. I think you clicked on this probably believing it was going to be a super Ryan down in the dumps pod. And it was for a period, but it wasn't the whole way. I tried to be higher energy. I didn't start with me going, all right. I tried to have high energy, tried to keep it up, tried to keep it lively because it was a really fun week in NFL football. Really happy the NFL's back. I was able to watch 4 games at once. We had 2 computers set up in front of me. RJ had a computer in the corner, and then the TV had the Bills game. So it was Bills game on the TV, Panthers game on my laptop. My buddy who's a Falcons fan had the Falcons game on his laptop. And then RJ in the corner had Patriots Bengals on his laptop. And then I would bounce around, watch a little bit of the Texans, watch a little bit of the Bears. I watched a little bit of every game except Seahawks Broncos because I forgot that game existed because I had no interest. Yeah. So, yeah, I touched on everything. I didn't watch any Red Zone this week. Red Zone's a great show. Like, Scott Hansen kills it. But I just don't watch it a lot. I mean, sometimes I'll watch it during the witching hour where wins become losses and losses become wins, to quote Scott Hansen himself. But other than that, I just like watching the full games. It's just the way I am. But if you watch Red Zone, I mean, I completely get it. That's a fun way to engage with the product. Okay. That is it from me. As I said, Panthers are bad. If we somehow turn it around and week 1 is a fluke and Bryce comes out and plays great, I would be so happy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not burning my Bryce Young t-shirt jersey. But I'm also saying if he's really not the guy, we need to move on and not wait around. Let's get a move on. Let's, accept this failed and let's draft somebody new in 2025. Keep an eye out for Cam Ward or somebody, right? All right. That's it from me. Hopefully the Panthers can do something this week, but I don't think we're going to beat Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. I just don't see it. All right. See you all in the next one. Thank you. I'm out.